Hi, my name is Nir Eyal, and I'm the author of this book, Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life.
Here's a simple question. When you make a promise to someone, do you keep your word? Well, of course you do. So tell me why, if you're like most people, do you not keep many of the promises you make to yourself? Have you promised yourself you'll finish that big project at work, but don't get around to it? Or that you'll be fully present with your family, kids, and friends, but find yourself somewhere else? Or have you told yourself you will definitely work out and eat right, but don't? The problem is, distractions are preventing us from keeping our promises to ourselves and fulfilling our full potential. Imagine you could keep every promise you made to yourself. What could you be capable of? And wouldn't that be a superpower? After teaching for many years at Stanford, completing over 10 years of research, and talking to countless experts, I have come to the conclusion that distraction always starts from within. In my new book, Indistractable, I'm going to share with you a 4-part model to help you finally overcome the distractions in your way. No, I'm not going to recommend that you have to tidy up or that there's some magic habit-forming formula to solve all your problems. Nor am I going to tell you that you need to get rid of all your digital devices and go on some kind of digital detox. The fact is, the power is already within you. Together, we're going to learn how to finally start keeping those promises we make to ourselves. I can't wait to see what you can accomplish when you become indistractable. Now let's get started.
Hi, my name is Nir Eyal, and I'm thrilled to answer your questions about my new book, Indistractable: How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life. So I have the questions right here. Let's dive in. Question number 1. I understand that distraction is driven by the pressure or overwhelming feeling on something that we hide from. For example, I was supposed to write an important proposal, but find myself watching YouTube. How can we overcome this fear or pain? How can we focus on our priorities? So this is a critical lesson that we have to learn on the path to becoming indistractable. It's probably the most important step to becoming indistractable is to understand and finally master your internal triggers. What are internal triggers? Internal triggers are uncomfortable sensations that we seek to escape from. Fear, loneliness, uncertainty, anxiety, stress, boredom, all of these things feel bad, and how we cope with that discomfort will define whether we do acts of traction, things that move us closer to our values, help us become the kind of person we want to become, or whether we seek to escape those uncomfortable sensations with distraction, actions that take us away from what we plan to do, things that move us away from our values and away from becoming the person we want to become. So this is the first and most important step. There's a big section in the book Indistractable about answering this very question around how do we master these internal triggers. Essentially, it comes down to 3 things: reimagining the trigger, reimagining the task, and reimagining our temperament. So reimagining the trigger is all about seeing that internal trigger differently. You know, how we deal with that discomfort will define whether we do an act of traction or distraction. So how do we change the conversation in our heads around how we cope with that discomfort? Are there different tactics we can use to deal with that discomfort in a healthier way? And there certainly are. There are dozens of different techniques that I cite from acceptance and commitment therapy. One of my favorites is the 10-minute rule, where we learn how to use that discomfort in a way that it doesn't use us, so that we're not looking to escape from it. We can tell ourselves that it's okay to give into that distraction. It's okay to give into that cigarette or that chocolate cake or checking Facebook or YouTube when we really want to be doing something else, as long as we do it on our schedule. And so the 10-minute rule is a wonderful way that we can learn to reimagine these triggers by telling ourselves not no necessarily. We're not telling ourselves no, we can't do those things. We're telling ourselves not yet. And so that helps us preserve a sense of agency and get control over that internal trigger as opposed to it controlling us. Next, we can reimagine the task. So I teach you how to turn any task that you don't enjoy doing into play. Essentially, we can learn to play anything. And what's counterintuitive here is that play doesn't necessarily require us to enjoy that action. It just simply requires us to learn how to focus on it long enough to allow us to not give in to distraction, so we can reimagine the task as well. And then finally, we can reimagine our temperament. So many of us, we have these scripts in our head that tell us that we are a certain way. I have a short attention span. I have an addictive personality. I'm this, I'm that. And many of these identities that we carry around with us really do harm us. And so if we can reimagine our temperament, change the conversation we're having with ourselves, we can finally master those internal triggers. So reimagining the trigger, reimagining the task, and reimagining the temperament. There's a lot more to learn in the book, but that's kind of the summary of the first section around mastering internal triggers. Here's the second question for Indistractable, How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life. I have no doubts that you are the master of controlling distractions. Thank you. However, do you have any specific behavior that keep you from being indistractable and made you regret in the past? Can you introduce the most extensive indistractable skill from your experience and public? Okay, so let me be very clear here. Becoming indistractable does not mean you never get distracted. I still get distracted from time to time. And listen, the reason why I wrote this book was not because I am the master of distraction, but rather I am the master of getting distracted. I used to be clinically obese. I used to be perpetually distracted by one thing or another. That's why I wrote this book, because I needed to change my own life. And so this was the reason why I decided to embark on this 5-year journey of writing this book, is because I had to solve this problem for myself. And so when it comes to what is being indistractable, does it mean you never get distracted? Absolutely not. I still get distracted from time to time. But here's the difference. The difference between a person who is distractible and a person who is indistractable is that the person who is indistractable understands why they got distracted and does something about it. As opposed to a distractible person, they keep getting distracted by the same thing again and again, day after day, just like I used to, without understanding why they got distracted. And so they're trapped in this vicious cycle. So the goal of becoming indistractable is to understand why we got distracted so that we can fix it. Paulo Coelho has a wonderful quote. He said, "A mistake repeated more than once is a decision." How many of us have decided to be distractible, as opposed to how many of us are now deciding to become indistractable, to decide for ourselves, no, I decide how I spend my time, I decide how I control my attention, I decide what will become of my life by becoming indistractable. So when I get distracted, I allow that distraction to happen once, right? If a distraction tricks me the first time, okay, I get a free pass. I didn't expect something to happen. COVID, I didn't expect COVID to happen. None of us did. And so our life had to adjust, and sometimes we got taken off track. But what happens the second, the third time? Do we start doing something about it? Do we realize there are only 3 potential causes for every distraction? Either it's an internal trigger, an external trigger, or a planning problem. That's it. And once we know that those are the 3 causes of distraction, we can take steps today to prevent getting distracted tomorrow.